Man, we got a lot of combine talk to start off this week, as today we will talk about all the different points Mike McDaniel went over, including to his extension and how he's optimistic about where it's at. Vic Fangio, he addressed that situation for the first time, as well as Terron Armstead, Danny Crossman, and more. We'll talk about all that, as well as I will give you the top 50 players I think Dolphin fans should keep an eye on during the NFL Combine this week. We got a ton to talk about. Smash the like button. Subscribe if you're new. Let's get into this.
Loses the football. Touchdown! Got it! You have got to be kidding me. Jalen Waddle has a Dolphin touchdown. And he will score! Deep upfield down the near side, man open. Touchdown! The run from Tua Tagovailoa. Touchdown! He's going deep. It's going over the touchdown again.
Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan. Let's go! What is good, Fin Nation? What's good is your boy Reason. We are back here for another one. This is kind of like a combine special, as we're going to go over Mike McDaniel's presser, and there's multiple different talking points that we want to go over, as well as I'm going to give you my list of top. I picked out 50 players, five at major positions of need. Now, all of them are not my top 5 players at the position. Some of them are, some of them aren't. Some of those are going to have players that I think are just going to test freakishly, so they're worth watching at a position where we obviously need help at. So we're going to go over all that. Also, I will have the results for all the votes tallied this week regarding the Content Creator Show, as that'll be starting up. On Friday, we will have my top 30, no longer 25, top 30 free agent targets for the Miami Dolphins. I went deep. That tells you how deep I went. I went from 25 to 30, all right? So we got 30. Okay, so we're going to go over that on Friday. Tomorrow I'll be live with Ball Game and Richmond Webb. And then on Thursday I will be live with Neil Driscoll. Now, shows are subject to change based upon any breaking news that may come down the pipeline, because there is some that expected. I want to shout out all the channel members and all the Patreons. If you are if you are a channel member, go into the community tab. If you missed it, I had a update for all of y'all yesterday. If you are not one of those and you are instead a Patreon, go over to Patreon and go check out the latest episode of 3 Takes, where I went over the same stuff that you can find under that community tab, just in video format. I talked about Jerome Baker and where that situation's at right now. I also talked about Tua Tagovailoa's extension, which we'll be talking about today based upon what Mike McDaniel said, and could that be holding up the floodgates? Also, I talked a little bit about Christian Wilkins as well. So go check that out if you are a Patreon or a channel member. I appreciate all of you guys, because especially in the offseason, you guys matter even more and the most. I appreciate you. So, thank all of y'all for continuing to support the channel and what I do over here on Phinside The NFL. Over 110 of you in the room right now. Smash that like button, like I said. Subscribe if you are new. In the chat, Jacques Bethune, it's his birthday. So shout out, everyone give Jacques a shout out. It's his birthday. Shout out to all of you. And shout out, happy birthday, man. I hope it's an amazing year, and I hope it's the best year yet. And it's your best trip around the sun, man. I hope that it is full of nothing but blessings this year for you, all right? So happy birthday. Shout out to you. man, shout out to everyone who's coming out in the chat already. Shout out to Pro Special, Regil, Andrew Harris, Robert Thomason, Jackie Treehorn, Logan Hampton, Tombstone, Marino's Goat, Rob G, Timothy Washington, Coach AJ, John Messick, Jeff Premont, Scotty, Sean Davis, Finn's in the house, J9625. Yes, we are giving to a contract. Get ready for it. Dolphin Man Jarrett, what's going on? Coke Master D, how are you doing, sir? Bob Oliver, Charles Hilton, Scorpion King 271, Tombstone Dan Ashton. Hope all of y'all are doing well. Please smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new on the way through. Listen, we're going to talk about the Tyreek drama. We're going to talk about all that. Listen, I'll probably save that for the end of the show because, let's have the real conversation right now before we even cover that drama, okay? Let's waste time on my opening thoughts on this. Is Tyreek Hill starting to become a big distraction? Like, is he legitimately starting to become a distraction now? Is that where we're at with Tyreek Hill? Because now the new drama is he broke some plus size model's leg. He flew her out there, made arrangements. They ran some one-on-one drill. She apparently, she claims that when they lined up, she blew him backwards. And you know what I mean. And don't get your minds out of the gutter. I mean, she pressed him like L'Jarius Sneed in the Chiefs. And, now he's getting sued. Because apparently she broke his leg because he charged at her. I mean, is this becoming... Man, yesterday I'm actually covering this guy challenging Jake Paul, not for the clickbait, but to say, what are we doing here? Your team's not even going to allow it. What are we doing it here? Are we doing this here for attention? What are we doing now? And now this. Listen. Last offseason, because now we're not going to our third offseason technically with him. We traded for him 2 offseasons ago. Last offseason we had the Marine incident, but we ended up, I never pinned that Marine incident on him from the beginning, from what I was told, from the connection I had at the Marina. So I don't hold the Marina thing against Tyreek because I know what that story's about, and you know what? I mean, it is what it is. But now we're getting into stupid stuff here. Now we're getting into, since this season started, the 2,000 yards was a distraction, it felt like. Now this Jake Paul nonsense. Now this. I mean, you're the one up here telling us there's no excuses, my friend. I mean, listen. I just don't get it, man. Because I'm not about to bring up some TMZ article, but the chick's name is Sophie Hall, right? She's a social media influencer with 2 million followers on Instagram. And she's basically claiming Tyreek Hill broke her leg in a fit of rage in his backyard during a football drill last summer. So this apparently happened last summer, she's saying. And she filed the lawsuit in Broward County last week. And apparently the incident went down a short time after she had booked a ticket for her son to attend one of his camps in Florida, South Florida. She dropped pictures. There's literal DM pictures between the two of them. In one of the text messages, he said to her, "I've been known to be a good stepdad." That's what he said in one of the text messages. And I quote, one of the texts she said included a line from the Dolphins wide receiver that read, "I've been known to be a good stepdad." And then she's also claiming that Hill also invited her to come a day early so me and mom can hang. And then gave her his personal cell phone number. So she went to the camp on June 17th. And then with her son. And then Hill asked her to come back and visit him at a Southwest Ranches mansion. And then she claims days later, so like June 18th, June 28th, so 11 days later, he had purchased flight and travel arrangements for her to reconnect with him on that date. So bringing her back out 11 days later. So she claims after she made her way to his house that he asked her to participate in some football drills during a training camp session he was having in his backyard. Hill allegedly asked her to rush against him in a defensive line versus offensive line one-on-one style workout. According to Hall, she shoved the Super Bowl champion backward, which caused him to get embarrassed. Quote, Mr. Hill's attitude changed and he became angry, she said in her suit. And then Hall alleges Hill then flipped the drill around so he could rush against her. And after a couple of reps, she said Hill charged into her violently with great force, causing her to suffer a right leg injury. Hall says she complained that she was hurt, but claims Hill was downplayed the severity of her injury, telling her to just rest on a bed and ice the leg. So apparently, she claims July 1st, 2023, an orthopedist diagnosed her with a leg fracture that required metal hardware implantation to fix. And she's saying she continues to suffer from persistent pain and weakness, and now she wants Hill to pay her big damages for her injuries. Like, what are we doing here? All right? Like, listen, okay? I'm going to say it. I'm sorry. I got to be the one to say it now that we've seen the claims and everything like this. Yesterday, remember I was talking about Hard Knocks and who was Tyreek Hill always chilling with? Who was he always sitting with? Who was it? Xavier Howard. That's what I was talking about. What's Xavier Howard known for doing? Take away the STD claims, all that stuff, but he's known to go out and get around in Miami. That's what he's known for. Tyreek Hill wouldn't sit with Jalen Waddle and those boys. You would always see him in Hard Knocks, whether it was the Campanelli speech or wherever, always sitting next to Xavier Howard. Why? Birds of the same flock fly together. And what I think we have here is, this is what, I'm going to tell you this. and this is no judgment. Everyone has their own personal choice, whatever they're comfortable with. Clearly, Tyreek Hill and his wife have an understanding or an arrangement. I don't want to necessarily call it an open marriage, but they have some kind of arrangement because we've heard multiple women in the last 12 months have claimed they've had babies by Tyreek. You don't got to be Sherlock to put this math together and see that they go back to his mansion June 17th. He invites her to come back out June 28th. We all know what that's about. Let's be real here. We're all grown individuals in the chat and watching. At least I set my videos to, not made for kids. So this ain't showing up on YouTube Kids. I know that for sure. So now this is starting to become a real thing. Now this is starting to become a distraction a little bit here. It's just, this is what it is. I'm not here to pass judgment because his wife could be totally okay with all of this. Who am I to judge their marriage? I don't know what goes I don't know what goes on between their walls. That's not me to judge their marriage. There's tens of thousands of couples around the world who go to key parties and swinger parties and do that. Not my thing, but I mean, this is, people are into this, especially when you have athletes, right? Like Andrei Kirilenko. You remember the Utah Jazz player? I remember back in the day. Andrei Kirilenko talked about it publicly. His wife was okay with him sleeping with one other woman a year. That was their compromise. Because she knew it was going to go down on the road. What was going to happen. So I think the compromise, if I remember correctly, was she was allowed to sleep with one woman. Now, I'm sure he probably broke that compromise. But these sports wives know what the deal is. This is why I've always said, and I've encouraged, if you're an athlete, man, don't start looking to lock down until you're, in your mid-30s or when you're retired from the game. But, because, you're going to be away from the kids all the time. You're going to have the conflicts with the wife, with not only being away and not being around for certain kid things, but who knows what goes on with women on the road, etc., etc. Anyways, like I said, I'm not here to pass judgment because really I don't care, to be honest with you. What I care about is this is starting to become a regular occurrence now. Okay? Over the last 8 months, since the regular season started, since September started, since the regular season started, again, because I don't count the Marina thing against him because of what I heard and what transpired, I believe he was responding rightfully to racism being put on. That's from what I was told that went down back then, et cetera, et cetera. So I believe that because my source ended up being spot on the whole time. So I don't hold that against him. But in the last 8 months, we've had baby mamas coming out claiming they got your kids. Okay? You know, listen. I don't blame, again, I'm not going to sit here and call the house burning down a distraction. I'm not. Because who knows what happened there, okay? But you got the baby mamas. Then you got this Jake Paul stuff. Now you got this going down. And then, okay, let's include the burning thing. Not as a distraction, but something weighing on his mind while we're expecting him to perform at a high level. Look at all the things this guy was dealing with during the season on his mind. It's like a domino effect. Off-field situations are becoming distractions for him, and it's making him a distraction to the team. That's what it looks like to me. And again, I don't judge. I don't care who you go do your thing with, who you fornicate with. That's your business, bro. But we, again, got to be Sherlock to connect the dots of why this even happened and now why this chick is coming out. Now, I will say this. This all happened in July and you're waiting till February. Well, I mean, I'll be the first one to say, okay, well, why are we waiting that long? Why aren't you why weren't you filing in like July or August or September? Now, there could be multiple reasons. They could have continued contact. He could have agreed to payments and then cut her off. I don't know. There could be multiple reasons why. But the fact of the matter is, it's here now and it's happening again. And, you caused a distraction with that whole 2K thing. You got these chicks coming out claiming you're your baby daddy. You're dealing with your house burning down. You're challenging Jake Paul to a fight. And now you got this model coming around trying to sue your ass in Broward County because you were trying to smash. Or you did smash and you got in your field, whatever happened. So, come on, man. Like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, we talk about players and them coming to Miami and them having to have a different level of focus because of the distractions and what goes on in Miami. This is why you want guys that are hungry to win championships to come to Miami. You don't go, Tyreek's at a stage where he's chasing personal accolades right now. He's already got his Super Bowl. But then he'll go on Twitter and he'll, act sad that he has to watch Mahomes and Kelsey and all these guys lift another Lombardi. Bro, you think they're doing this kind of jazz? Do you think Patrick Mahomes is getting caught up in these kind of messes? Do you think Travis Kelsey is getting caught up in these kind of messes? Do you think they're allowing guys like Rashee Rice and Isaiah Pacheco to get caught up in these kind of messes? You know why they're winning, bro? Because they're focused. They're locked in. From 1 to 53. And I don't even like addressing this stuff. I don't like this Sally Jesse Raphael nonsense. But, bro, we're getting to a point where it's now becoming unavoidable. I didn't cover the women claiming he's their baby daddy. I didn't cover his house being burnt down, really. I think I mentioned it, but I didn't right? I haven't covered any of this TMZ Sally Jesse Raphael stuff, but now we're getting to a point. And the only thing I did cover was the marina because you had people out here misinforming all of y'all and spinning it and twisting it. Acting like he beat up like an 80-year-old man. And I was the first one to say, y'all don't know the size of this guy. Lo and behold, it comes out this guy's taller than Tyreek. I said, y'all don't know the age of this guy. And, he looked like he was perfectly capable of handling himself. But now you're driving people like me to cover this bullshit. Pardon my language. Because it's starting to become a distraction. And you're going to sit up here and tell us we got to win a playoff game. There's no excuses. Well, I'm going to say this, Tyreek, act like it. Actions speak louder than words right now. And your actions look like you're more focused on personal accolades and getting the best out of the Miami scene and lifestyle. That's all I'm going to say, man. Listen, Tyreek on the field is one of the best football players in the world. Tyreek off the field, I don't know what's going on these past 8 months, but the guy who got here in that first offseason and the guy who last offseason and after that first year who looked like he was a great leader, I'm starting to see cracks in the foundation. So I'm starting to see cracks in the foundation, but I'm still going to support him. He's still one of the best players in the world. You got to get your mind focused, bro. You got an absolute dime piece of a wife at home who holds you down and has your back. And she knows the game because her brother was a defensive back, Kenny Vaccaro, one of the great defensive backs or safeties over the last 10, 15 years. You got a dime piece at home who understands the game and puts up with it, man. Like, stop. These distractions shouldn't even be coming up, man. Because I saw what that Sophie Hill girl looks like or whatever. Brother, you got it. Why you going out and eating a Whopper when you got a ribeye at home? Come on, man. Please. I don't get it. I don't get it. Anyways, hey, do your thing. So, I mean, I don't know if I got a nice, Whopper with cheese and fries and a Coke at Burger King, or I got a nice ribeye cooked up perfectly, medium rare to medium well in that area with some nice mashed potatoes and some veggies, bro. Well, why are you going out for the Whopper, bro? That's all I got to say. Why are you going out for the Whopper when you got that meal at home? Anyways, let's keep it rolling. 2 days in a row, I'm addressing Tyreek Hill drama. 2 days in a row. I don't like doing this. So, man, you're out here telling everyone no excuses. So guess what? Stop, AJ. Listen, I heard listen, the reason why I even came up with that analogy back in the day, I'm going to tell you this story. I think I've told this story up here. Okay, listen, there's a story out here because there's this station out here, this rock station, classic rock station. And there's this guy up there, and he's talking about this story about Gene Simmons. And he went on tour with Kiss and Gene Simmons. He was following them. He was a journalist. And he said, Gene Simmons' wife, she used to do the Baby Blues. I forget her name, whatever. She did like the softcore stuff. But his wife or whatever, and he said he would see these absolute smoke shows every night go up with Gene Simmons on the elevator, and take him to the room or whatever, blah, 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 blah. And he says one night, he says in the bar, he looks and he said Gene Simmons got on this elevator with just this Shannon Tweed, that's it. Apparently he got on this the elevator with an absolute, not a very attractive woman. And he said he looked at him and he said, Gene. And Gene looked at him, had his arm around the woman and said, listen, you can't eat steak every night. Sometimes you got to go out to McDonald's. I don't get that. You know what I mean? Because I like my steak. I can eat my steak every night. But Coach AJ obviously gets that. That's why I even said that story. Knight says it's getting to a point where the boys need to call him out on his bullshit. There is no trading Hill. The money doesn't work for those in the comments. Yeah, you can't trade him right now. And it's counterproductive to what we're building. You just can't trade him. You just can't. You just can't. So, it is what it is, It is what it is. You got to be better, man. Like, seriously, you got to be better than this. I mean, I just don't know what else to say. You got to be better, man. So, listen, I'll support him on the field. And right now, I'm having a hard time supporting what he's doing off the field right now. I'm going to be honest with you. So, hey, hopefully, it's the offseason right now. It's February. This better not leak out into training camp and become a distraction this season. That's all I got to say. All right? You were brought over here to be a leader on this offense because you had been there before and you had done it. Supposed to be leading by example. All right. And we pay you like you're supposed to be leading by example too. Well, not I do, but the Stephen Ross and the Miami Dolphins do. So, anyways, I support Tyreek. He's still one of the best players in the world, but you got to get your head right, brother. So, let's get into it. So, we had Mike McDaniel and some talking points today. So, let's start off with Tua Tagovailoa. Speaking of Tua, Mike McDaniel very encouraged Dolphins will sign Tua Tagovailoa to an extension. With his combine meeting today in Indianapolis, Dolphins coach Mike McDaniel said at the NFL Scouting Combine Tuesday that he is very encouraged the team will sign quarterback Tua Tagovailoa to a long-term deal. Quote, both his representation and our organization are hard at work, McDaniel said. Those timelines are impossible to predict. My main concern this offseason has been communicating what Tua needs from his head coach and his offensive coaching staff, which is what things we can identify to continue the progression of your game the same way we have since day one. He added, my belief has always been strong from day one and Tua. It's stronger than it was the first day I met him. And that's because of that relationship where I'm focused, which is continuing to provide the coaching so he can continue to evolve his game as he has since the second I started talking to him. Tagovailoa, 25, is set to play the final year of his rookie contract on the fifth-year option. In 2024, he's been eligible for an extension since last offseason. At the team's end-of-the-season news conference in January, General Manager Chris Grier said the goal is to have Tagovailoa here for long-term playing at a high level. Tagovailoa, speaking at the Pro Bowl earlier this month, said he believes both sides will reach an agreement on a long-term deal. Going to let my agents, Chris and Mike, let those guys talk about that and let them move forward accordingly, Tagovailoa said. A lucrative extension would make Tagovailoa one of the highest-paid quarterbacks in the NFL, but would also lower his cap hit in 2024, giving the Dolphins more flexibility to make moves during a critical offseason for the franchise. Miami has made the playoffs in each of the last two seasons, but hasn't advanced past the wildcard round. Tagovailoa's fifth-year option carries a fully guaranteed salary of $23 million, all of which counts towards the cap in 2024. The Dolphins are currently $29 million over the cap and will make several moves to be compliant ahead of the start of the new league year, March 13th. And I believe it's at about 4 p.m. Eastern. In 2023, Tagovailoa led the NFL with a career-high of 4,624 passing yards, and his 29 passing touchdowns were the most he's thrown in a season. He's also named to his first Pro Bowl. Among Tagovailoa's feats include playing every game for the first time in his NFL career, which McDaniel said was pivotal in Tagovailoa's growth. In football, there's a lot of things that can happen. There's also a lot of things you can control. I think one of the best examples of taking control of your career is what Tua was able to do through training camp and being able to experience all the different things. I mean, experience a playoff for the first time in his career. He added, that was afforded to him because he was able to be leading the team week in, week out. These are the things that weren't necessarily assumed he was capable of doing. But like most things that Tua has done in his career, he recognized that and proved doubters wrong. Since McDaniel arrived as head coach before the 2022 season, the Dolphins have been one of the most explosive offenses in the NFL. However, the unit has struggled when facing top defenses. Against non-playoff teams in 2023, the offense averaged 33.5 points, but against playoff teams, the Dolphins had a 1-6 record against them in 2023, and the offense averaged just 12 points. The continued success of the unit in 2024 largely hinges not on the team's ability to keep top free agents such as offensive linemen Connor Williams and Robert Hunt, but on adding more talent and figuring out answers to what troubled the offense against tougher competition. McDaniel characterized the growth of the offense as a constant evolution. I'm never going to copy and paste and be like, well, this is what we did in 2023 and let's work off that. The team is ultimately trying to create some uncertainty and indecision with offensive scheme, and inherent is that in your constant evolution. I'm not really ever gloating on any successes of past. You're more, what are we going to do with this set of players? We're going to have some guys who are going to be in year 3, some guys in year 2, and some new guys. But ultimately, what's the best thing to serve them? He added, that's naturally evolving. There's never been one year from an offensive perspective that I can remember that we've stayed exactly the same, and particularly since I got here in 2022. There will be exciting things that we do different. There's going to be exciting things that we will evolve from, and there are exciting things that we will build upon the successes of the first 2 years. Well, the first thing I'm going to tell you to build off of is, brother, you better find a way to get back Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle into that 1A, 1B trajectory. Next thing you need to do is you need to find that slot option that's reliable, a possession guy, and you need to find someone that can challenge the seams after the catch. I mean, that can also block, so offenses don't know what he's doing. Is he going in line and blocking? Is he blocking and leaking out? Is he just running a vert? What's he doing? So, there are things you need to, and then, I still talked about this. No one's talking about it. It continues to be a non-talking point, but I think it's going to come up. Mark my words, I think it's going to come up. What's going to happen with Raheem Mostert? Do we really think Raheem Mostert's going to sit here after scoring 21 touchdowns and basically have no guaranteed money on his contract this year? Like, let's ask ourselves this. I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know if that happens, man. So, I will be very intrigued to see how that goes down. Very, very intrigued. So, we'll figure it out. We'll see, and we'll learn over the next few months. That's for sure. But listen, hey, it is what it is. Let's let's bring it back to the extension here. I keep telling y'all, they're trying to. I know they're trying to hammer this out before the league year opens. They want as much cap opened up for that league year opening as possible. If they're going to listen, I'm going to tell you right now, if they're going to figure out Christian Wilkins and Tua, they're going to have it figured out before free agency. So if Christian Wilkins hits free agency without a deal, that's something Chris Greer, Brandon Shore, and our front office came to terms with. So, and I mean, you see it very encouraged. I mean, you look at what he said today, Mike McDaniel, and Mike McDaniel today, when he was talking about Tua, not only was he encouraged, not only was, he happy with what he's seen, but haters are going to hate this because I've seen people have tried to say, hey, but McDaniel says his belief in Tua, he said it. His belief in Tua is stronger now than it was 2 years ago. His belief in Tua's ability to lead this offense, he's seen it with his eyes. So that's, yeah, I went over it in my opening thoughts, brother. Tyreek getting sued now. Go back and look at that opening thoughts. It's probably about it starts about the 5-minute mark, and we go till about the 25-minute mark. Is he becoming a distraction now? I think it's a real conversation we have, So go check it out if you missed the opening. I talked about Tyreek and everything in that opening. But Tua Tagovailoa, that extension is coming down. They want as much money as possible because, you saw what Daniel Ofusi said. This is a critical offseason. They got to reload and reset. They don't have time. This ain't blow it up. This ain't nothing. It's coming. And I still think there's going to be an out. It's probably be a 5-year deal. And I've said all year there's going to be an out probably after year 2 or year 3. They'll work an out in for sure. But what I think they're going to do is this is what I think is going to happen. You're going to sign him an extension, right? And so they're going to push around the money this year with the extension. Next year, I think they're going to restructure him again. When that first year of the deal kicks in, they're going to restructure him. It's what the Chiefs did with Mahomes when they signed that $500+ million deal. The 10-year, $500 million deal. They moved the money around in his 5th year because they had activated it. And then the first year of that 10-year deal, they restructured it. And they just moved money up to him. And I think that's what they're going to do with Tua. They're going to restructure him as soon as that deal kicks in into its first year. Because you're going to be able to move around more money and create more cap space. Watch. That's exactly what's going to happen. See, people are looking at it as just a cap move for this. That's narrow-sighted. It's not just a cap move for this year. It's a cap move for next year, too. You got people out here claiming that they know the cap better than Omar Kelly when they clearly don't. But that's one of the things that no one's talking about, and I've talked about multiple times on this channel. That's one of the things they're trying to do with this extension. It gives you 2 years of cap flexibility, basically. So, you know, that's just what it is. So, yeah. Extension's coming down. Get ready for it. I can't wait to watch a portion of social media blow up and act like so shocked. Like everyone knows this has been happening. Stop. Like the shock. They're going to be shocked. Oh, I can't believe it. Watch. Yeah. Scotty says this. Listen, you know why you restructure? This is what it is. Because if you know this guy's going to be there the next year, you just keep restructuring. That's exactly what you do. Like if you know Tua's going to be here for the first 3 years of that contract until you have an out, you restructure the first 2 years, and then you just don't restructure on the third year if you want to get out of it. But the first 2 years, you keep restructure, and then if you want to get out of it in the third year, you don't restructure in the third year because you're not pushing money to the fourth year, and you get out. That's literally how you do it. You keep creating space. That's what's going to happen. That's exactly what the plan is. I'm telling you. And then here's the thing. If Tua is continuing to play at a high level, ladies and gentlemen, if he signs a 5-year, $250 million deal, but only $180 million guaranteed, see, people are going to come out and be like, oh my God, $250 million. Da, 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 da. But that's not the real money. The real money is he's only getting $36 million a year of guaranteed money. That's the real number. You spread the 180 over 5 years. And I'm going to tell you this right now. That's nowhere near as much guaranteed as Burrow or Herbert. And guess what? Even if it's 200 million, right? So that's like 40 million guaranteed a year, basically, right? Of guaranteed money per year. A, you're going to have an out. B, if he keeps balling in 3 years, that's going to be with this cap could go up $30 million every year. Who knows what these guys will be making in 3 years? 40 million might get laughed at. We might be where guys are making 55 to 60 million guaranteed a year. Where we're talking about 5 years, 275 million freaking guaranteed. 250 to 275 guaranteed, where we're talking 50 to 55 million guaranteed per year. And that's not talking about what the ceiling and the escalators could have it at. We could be talking about 5 years, $325 to $350 million deals in 2 years, where like 250 million of it is guaranteed, 275 million of it is guaranteed. Because over the next 2 years, we could have another 60 million on the cap. The cap could be $310 million to $315 million in 2 years if these TV deals and gambling deals keep escalating. So like that's going to be a good deal. So, we just saw the largest increase in a salary cap ever. And it's going to keep. And why did they do that? They said the reason why the NFL did that is because they're trying to spread it out over the next couple of years. What does that tell you? That there's going to be more influxes coming over the next couple of years. That's why get Jalen Waddle done now. Before Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and these guys start coming for that $30 million, an annual. They're going to come for Tyreek's $30 million annual average. That's what they're going to come for. And they're going to try and top it. Just saying. Continuing on, Mike McDaniel addressed Vic Fangio for the first time. He didn't say much, but Coach Mike McDaniel insisted Tuesday that the team separation from Vic Fangio after just one season as defensive coordinator was mutual. McDaniel, speaking during the NFL Scouting Combine, replaced Fangio with former Baltimore Ravens assistant Anthony Weaver in the weeks after the 2023 Dolphins season, but he had not explained why until Tuesday. I'd be lying if I said I was expecting that during this season at all, McDaniel told reporters. And I think, Vic would feel similarly. I think it's very important when the season ends for you to remove emotion and evaluate and have very, very good conversations with all the people that you're depending on, he continued. Vic and I, we have extensive conversations that were very healthy. And ultimately, when push came to shove, it seemed like we both had the opportunity and we both best for both parties involved to mutually part. So it wasn't anticipated. It was something that, I think was a factor of great communication between him and I where, we feel like we're all best served if we go a different direction, which is something that we had a mutual belief and excited for both parties moving forward. What McDaniel didn't say, but is nonetheless almost certainly true, Fangio always preferred to be the Philadelphia Eagles defensive coordinator, and when the opportunity presented itself this offseason, he jumped at it. Fangio took the Eagles job the day after the Dolphins' divorce was announced, and he likely would have taken it a year earlier had the timing of former Eagles defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon's departure from the Cardinals head coach job been better. If that dynamic bothered McDaniel, he didn't tip his hand Tuesday. As soon as Fangio was gone, he embarked on a thorough defensive coordinator search that landed on Weaver, a former player who spent 1 year as defensive coordinator in 2020 with the Texans. Weaver, who has known McDaniel for nearly 2 decades, seems to be a far better cultural fit with the organization. So, shout out to McDaniel for taking the high road, right? Not getting into the weeds of it, but he kind of gave some things away without giving some things away. He didn't expect it to happen through the season, but then what happens when the offseason starts? What happens? You have exit interviews with your players and your positional coaches. That's probably where it came to a full head. I've said it before and I'll say it again. It all went wrong for Fangio when he wasn't receptive to Jalen Ramsey. That's when it started going wrong for him. Because like we brought Tyreek to be the leader of this offense with that championship pedigree, that's basically what we did with Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey feels Fangio didn't utilize him properly, and he suggested how to utilize him. Jalen Ramsey feels he didn't utilize the tandem of him and X properly, and he suggested how to utilize him. Fangio didn't want to hear it. Jalen Ramsey was I've told all y'all this, Jalen Ramsey was one of the advocates for getting Cam Smith on the field over Eli Apple. Fangio didn't want to have any of it. And here's the thing. Ramsey's won a Super Bowl in an iteration of the Fangio defense. How many Super Bowls has Fangio won running his defense? Just saying. Some guys are worth listening to. I'm not saying go over here and Ethan Bonner give me advice on what I should do. But when you look at guys who have been there and done that and are at the top of their position and have been there for almost a decade, you want to listen. Now, continuing on. I do want to add here, there was another portion here, speaking with coaches. Mike McDaniel addressed keeping Danny Crossman. The Dolphins special teams units have ranked among the league's worst in recent years, but McDaniel continues to show support for the man in charge of the group's performance. Miami ranked 22nd and 28th each of the last 2 seasons in special teams DVOA, an all-encompassing metric, but McDaniel retained Crossman as special teams coordinator on Tuesday, explained the decision behind keeping him. I think Coach Crossman would agree with the statement that the results aren't where we want them to be. However, so much of my job is determining the compounding variables and the whys to things. The bottom line is picturing us moving forward, how to get to that phase of the football team to find the improvement necessary for us to take steps in our game as a team. I determined that he was the appropriate guy to lead us to fix things that haven't been up to the standard. You have a window into the true depth of someone's coaching ability when you're working alongside them every day. Part of the process of factoring those things in is ultimately how is a coach able to communicate to a player to get him better. And although the results haven't been there, what I've been seeing is players responding in the appropriate way to the things that Danny has to offer. Everything's on the table. What has been established is the communicator, the leader, and the guy devoted to getting it right. Danny Crossman felt like held the most merit to coach this unit moving forward. I don't know who this guy's got pictures on. Someone explain to me who he's got pictures on. He got pictures on someone, I will tell you that. Holy. Because I'm sorry, but I have to adamantly disagree with everything you just said. I am sorry. I don't see it. I just don't see it. I'm sorry. And you're not pulling one over me. I said it when y'all hired him, and I'll say it again. You got his replacement in the building right now. Don't lie to me. You brought in Ronnie Bradford as a senior special teams assistant after firing the guy before him, and I know why you did. I know exactly why you did. Because if you're not even seeing the results halfway through the season, Crossman's out and Bradford's promoted. Because, I mean, you look at Ronnie Bradford's resume and he's got the resume. You know? I mean, he just does. You're talking about a guy who's been a defensive coordinator in Montana. He was a special teams coordinator at Louisiana Tech. Special teams coordinator for the Denver Broncos in 2004 to 2006. Before that, he was assistant. So we're talking about a guy who's been a special teams coordinator at the collegiate and at the NFL level. You've got his replacement in-house. You can't pull that wool over my eye, my friend. I'm sorry. I see exactly what's going on there. Now, one other thing Mike McDaniel talked about today. Terron Armstead. Asked on Tuesday whether Terron Armstead has communicated his desire to hold off on retirement and play the 2024 season, Dolphins coach McDaniel suggested the Pro Bowl left tackle is still considering his decision. Quote, I have let time allow for what is an important decision for him and let time from the season evolve so that he can give us a window into what he's thinking. There's a roller coaster of emotions when you're talking about potentially leaving a game that you're a lead at and the pros and cons of that. He's been an unbelievable leader, and he's really battled through a ton of different things for us. And right now, he's determining something that him and his body are the only people that know. And we are very open for that. However, we also have to allow for that time and assess all options for the Miami Dolphins, have plans regardless of any sort of scenario, which is what we get paid to do. There's not anybody that's earned more liberty to take his time to figure out what's the next step in his life and if it's with this team or not. So we're allowing that with Terron. Excited to hear some conclusions he's drawn in the near future. Now, in the locker room clear out, he hinted that he could be considering retiring, but that he won't prolong the process at all. And he's taking time to get away from the game and let his body heal. Armstead turns 33 in July. Now, he has $5 million of his $13.25 million 2024 base salary is already guaranteed. And another $8.25 million becomes guaranteed on March 16th. And he obviously missed 7 games because of injury in 2023 and 11 games in total since joining Miami. It's been kind of up and down. At the Pro Bowl, it sounded like he's not retiring. And so all I know is this team needs answers so they can figure out what they're going to do moving forward. That's all I know. So, especially with potential tackles that are going to be on the board. All right. Draft time, baby. I can feel it. All right. Let's get into the combine is this week. All right. We know if you look at how things are going down with the combine this week, the reason why I wanted to do this for all of you, we went over the show yesterday, is we are going to get the measurements. We're going to get all that jazz coming this week for all of you. And hey, man, you guys got to know who to keep an eye out on or who makes sense to watch from a Miami Dolphins standpoint, right? And it's my job to keep y'all as informed as possible with the NFL draft because no one does it like Phinside The NFL. Now, yesterday we went over the combine schedule. We know that measurements and on-field workout starts with the DL, the defensive linemen and linebackers, on Thursday. Then on Friday, we have DBs and tight ends for on-field workouts and measurements. Then on Saturday, we have measurements and on-field workouts for running backs, quarterbacks, and wide receivers. And then on Sunday, we have measurements and on-field workouts for offensive linemen, punters, kickers, et cetera, right? So we got a lot coming this way. So let's get into the players I think you should be keeping an eye on. And again, I want to stress this. Not every single guy is in the top 5 of the guys I'm telling you to watch. Some guys I'm telling you to watch because they're a position of need, and these guys might be freaks. So they'd be worth your time to watch. All right? So, over 300 of you in the room. Smash that like button. Subscribe for new. Here are the top 50 Dolphin players Dolphin fans should watch at the Combine. Obviously, Jackson Powers Johnson from Oregon. He's going to be a big one because he's the ex-favorite. That's who everyone loves. That's who everyone wants. And you're talking about a guy who played at an All-American level, got a nice big frame. I think everyone's going to be interested in what he can bench because he shows such great power, but everyone's going to want to see how he moves because of his flexibility. And he's shown a decent amount of athleticism. Another guy I'm really excited to see test is Zach Frazier, right? And you see him, West Virginia here. Listen, former wrestler, the more I watch him, the more I'm falling in love with Zach Frazier. The more I'm because I haven't finalized my center big board. I finalized my tight end big board. Center is being finalized as we speak. And Zach Frazier, man, I'm going to tell you this one thing. I would not be mad with either or. Cedric Van Pran, that's going to be one because why? People doubt his athleticism. That's the reason why he's fallen off with people, right? He was basically start off the year as the consensus number 1 center for everyone, and what's happened? He's fallen off. Now he's a powerful guy. I think he's more athletic than people are wanting to give him credit for. The issue with him, I think, is going to be his length. But I think because he's such a great technician, you'll see it all. You'll see it work out. So, now I know pass pro has been why people have kind of been weary on him. But listen, I think with his recovery ability, I think he'll be fine, man, as he gets to the next level. I think he's being overevaluated. I think Graham Barton is another one to watch. All right, you got a guy who can play tackle, or he can play left guard, or he can play center. Remember when he started off at Duke, he started off as center. A lot of people are high on him right now. That's just where we're at. A lot of people are high on him right now. I think you're going to get a lot more answers where, teams view him with his testing. Another one here I have is Andrew Ram from Oklahoma, 6'4", 310. I'm interested to see how he tests because I think he's a decent sleeper in this draft. Continuing on here, Troy Fautanu and Cooper Beebe. 2 guys where I'm going to tell you right now, they are going to be some of the top guard options in this draft. Again, Troy Fautanu, you come to this, again, testing will give us, teams will feel more comfortable with whether they're in, based on his measurements, do they like him inside or do they like him outside? You're going to get a little bit more of an answer with that. I mean, that's just what's coming, right? But I think you got 2 guys here that are going to be really interesting to watch. Now, I don't have Olu Fashanu, who, he's got crazy agility for a 320-pound guy, because I think he'll be gone. So why am I going to sit here and say, watch Olu Fashanu? You're just going to fall in love and be mad. A guy who, I didn't, there's certain players who I think might not be on the board, so I didn't put them there. And I'm just using him as as an example. I'm just using Olu Fashanu as an example, right? So, but when you look at the interior, We got a big need there. I think when you look at Troy Fotnu, Cooper Beebe, Christian Haynes, and Zach Sinter, and Christian Mahogany, these are guys that make sense to look at. We don't know what's happening with Robert Hunt. So right guard options. We don't know what's happening with Isaiah Wynn and left guard. There's a couple left guard options for you to watch this weekend. Everyone knows I'm high on Christian Haynes. I just am. And so I think he's quietly a nice piece. If you miss out, if you could get him in the second round, because you miss out on getting Hunt, man, if you came away with a Jackson Powers Johnson or a Zach Frazier and a Christian Haynes with your first two picks, sure, the Zach Frazier might be a little rich if you haven't taken him first, but trade back and then get them. There's some, just those first 10 names are good options, right? Now we get into the let's get into the tackles here. Now these are more guys I think will be on the board when the Dolphins pick, right? You're not seeing anyone up here that, Olu Fashanu, Joe Alt, and as much as I love Talise Fuaga, he's not up there, right? Because I don't think he's going to be there. That's just what I think. Now, starting here with Armarius Mims, 6'7", 330 pounds. Another Georgia tackle that is just unbelievable, right? I mean, look at his first career start. Came against Ohio State in a playoff game, and he was just unbelievable in it. What I want to see is the foot speed. He's got the foot speed. He's got the length. We want to see what he benches because he shows good power on film. So Armarius Mims is someone to watch. Tyler Guyton was a massive riser at the Senior Bowl. He's one of those guys who ask yourself, can he continue to rise up the boards from what the foundation he created at the Senior Bowl? That's what you ask with a guy like Tyler Guyton. So be interesting to see, and he'll be on the board. Another guy who could be on the board in the second round when we pick, Kingsley Suamataia. And listen, this guy might test like a freak a little bit. Be out on the lookout for Kingsley potentially blowing your socks off. It's real possibility. I mean, he's from BYU. You remember last year, Blake Freeland from BYU created that massive amount of noise at the combine when he was 6'8", 302, and he ran like a 4.98 40. He posted the combine record for offensive tackles with a 37-inch vertical jump. And the word on the street is Kingsley is going to test better from an athletic standpoint, and he's 6'6", 325. I mean, the word on the street is he's faster than some of the BYU linebackers. Apparently, they expect him to just be an absolute monster when it comes to the bench press. Now, as a 318-pound freshman, he hit 21.5 miles per hour moving downfield. There's a real possibility this guy hits the 4.8s in the 40. Moving at 6'6", 325, that's crazy. Other two guys I like here to check out is Javon Foster from Missouri and Patrick Paul from Houston. And now the interesting things about these guys are this, all right? Let's start off with Patrick Paul, 6'7", 315. Yeah, I want to see how this man moves, and I want to see his measurements. I'm sorry, I just want to. Javon Foster, I like as a late sleeper. Now we don't have a third or fourth round pick, but I like him as a sleeper in the same tier as a Roger Rosengarten. I think he's a quiet little sleeper there. So Javon Foster, now he's a little older, right? I believe he was like 6 years, including a red shirt, right? So But, I'm interested to see how those guys test. Continuing on, let's get into it. Brian Thomas Jr. From LSU. Now, I think there's a realistic chance he is on the board when we pick. There is a realistic chance Brian Thomas, and I've even seen some mocks of people, having us take him. And listen, I think there's a couple wide receivers that are going to test really well. But you got a guy who's coming off an 1,100, almost a 1,200 plus season. He's 6'4", 205. There's word on the street that he could run a 6'4", 205 guy. He could run in the 4.3s. And it's expected his vert is supposed to, it could come in, between the 38 to the 37.5 to 39 inch mark. So Brian Thomas has got crazy athleticism. It's going to be very interesting to see how he tests, because he could be explosive, and he could be a guy that's right now people are expecting him to sit there at 21. He could be gone. He could be gone. That's a realistic possibility. And there's a couple wide receivers in here that I didn't even list, and we'll talk about them. But, another guy I want to see is Ladd McConkey. I mean, you're talking about a slot option. We need slot option, third receiver option. And then Roman Wilson, talking about a guy trying to build off of a strong Senior Bowl, right? He was clocked at running a 4.3, 340 out of a 2-point stance last offseason. Ran a 6.2 3-cone drill. 3.77 shuttle time. I mean, he was on display at the Senior Bowl, and he might be a freak. You might see some freakish numbers from him at the Combine. Another guy I got on here is Malachi Corley. He's 5'11", 220 pounds. This guy hit 23 miles per hour on the GPS, and he's clocked a 4.4 340 and a 4.08 shuttle time. And he's a missed tackle machine. He's elusive. He's agile. Malachi Corley could put up some decent numbers. He could be flirting with 4.3s to the low 4.8s, but it's his acceleration that's crazy. It's his acceleration that's just out of this world nuts. Just out of this world nuts. You know what I mean? We got a couple, and we know the reason why listen, these are not top guys in the draft here. I mean, these guys are, they're going to go, in the first, 2 days. I expect, obviously, Brian Thomas is probably going to go in the first. Ladd McConkey and Roman Wilson and Malachi Corley are probably going to go from the second to the third. Another guy I've talked about, he had a big Senior Bowl, right? Had a big Senior Bowl, and that's Xavier Legette. He can separate. He can win at the line of scrimmage. The guy's like 225 pounds and just creates separation. He's a beast. You look at Deebo Samuel, I get Deebo Samuel vibes from him. 6'3", 225. He was ripping up the Senior Bowl a little bit. So I think he quietly might test real well. All right. Continuing on, we got to get into the tight ends. Brock Bowers. Man, you already all know how I feel about Brock. Brock, we already know what he's going to do. We already know he's going to test off the charts. And now, sticking with wide receivers, I expect guys like, I expect Ricky Pearsall to have a crazy, I expect him to have a crazy combine. I think, Rome Odunze is going to have a crazy combine. Troy Franklin. There's going to be a lot of wide receivers that make some noise, I think. All right, Marvin Harrison Jr., everyone's got their eyes on that. But a couple of those names I don't think are even going to be around for when we pick, right? So, yeah, but sticking here, Brock Bowers. Listen, we know Brock Bowers. He's going to have quite the day. I mean, everyone knows how I feel about my boy Brock Bowers. You know, there's rumors he's clocked in at the 4.4s and the 40 in the past. But, you know, is he going to go or is he going to save his workout for his pro day? Last offseason, he broad jumped to 10.2, and he had a vertical jump of about 36 inches. So, you know. Now, Jatavian Sanders, I think he's a freak. I can't wait to see him test. Yeah, I think he's a freak. Ben Sinote, can't wait to see him test because those are my top 3 guys basically in this draft. Now, Theo Johnson and Jared Wiley, I can't wait to see how they test based on their size. That's more of a size intrigue for me when you look at them. And there's a couple guys who I'm intrigued at the tight end position, and I mentioned it yesterday due to their size, right? So, like, I'm super interested in, Theo Johnson because he's 6'6", 255. Jared Wiley, 6'7", 260. Another guy who's on this list, but I'm interested is Brevin Spanford from Minnesota, 6'7", 270. How's he going to test? You know what I mean? Another guy I'm really interested on his testing is Dallin Holker from Colorado State, 6'5", 235. He's a beast, right? He's an absolute monster. So we'll see how he tests, but there are guys I'm interested to see how they test. So, and that's offensively. That's just the first 25, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Now let's flip it for all of y'all. Here are defensively who I think y'all should keep an eye on. You got Leatu Latu. He's just, I think he's my edge one. We've seen him in mock drafts be mocked to us. He had an amazing Senior Bowl. I think he is going to be, that's my number one. I don't know how people think he's going to fall to us, but I'll take it. Another one here is Chris Braswell from Alabama. Obviously, he wasn't no Will Anderson or even Dallas Turner from this year, but, he had a vertical of over 38 inches. He hit almost 22 mile per hour on a GPS, all while he weighed about 256 pounds. So his athletic testing is going to be interesting. And then he's known as having some pop and power on those hands. It's going to be interesting to see how he benches. Another guy, Jared Verse. Obviously, he's another one who could be sitting there at 2,100 with our holes. It's going to be interesting to see what they do if a guy like that is sitting there. And, it's going to be very interesting to see what they're going to do if a guy like that is sitting there and just itching you on to take him. Just itching you on to take him. And then another one here for sticking with that with edge. Another 2 here, actually. Braylon Trice and Chop Robinson. Now, all right, Chop Robinson. All right, 6'3", 255-ish pounds. Had a huge year last year. Guess what? There's word out of Penn State. They think he's just as fast as Micah Parsons, who ran a 4.39 40. Now, Robinson clocked a 4.47 last year, but he ran a quicker shuttle than Parsons. Parsons ran a 4.40. Chop Robinson ran a shuttle in about 4.22. Has a broad jump of 10.7 and a bench press of 400 pounds. Apparently, Chop Robinson is going to be one of the people that just blows up at the combine. Just going to blow up at the combine. So, be out on the look for him. All right, as we continue on here. Now, let's get into some interior defensive line talk for all of you. So, there's just a lot of guys here to like. You got Braden Fisk out of FSU, Jazan Newton out of Illinois. Byron Murphy out of Texas. Now, Byron Murphy out of Texas, I expect him to test very well as well. Same with Chris Jenkins out of Michigan. I expect those two to test very, very well. Now, Murphy, he's 6'1", he's 6'1", 308. He's strong, and he's fast. Good, he is fast and explosive off the line. So it's going to be interesting to see how he tests, really. Chris Jenkins, remember, his father was a former NFL defensive lineman. 307 pounds. He's seen as an absolute freak of an athlete. Okay, he does pull-ups with a 100-pound weight strapped to his waist, and he's just put up some freakish numbers. And the stories coming out of Michigan are just nuts. So, and then we get to linebacker here. Peyton Wilson, Edgerrin Cooper, Jeremiah Trotter, Tommy Eichenberg, and Trevin Wallace. Now, Peyton Wilson, he's coming off the injuries. But you're talking about a guy who used to play lacrosse. He's ran a 4.49 40. He's best pressed almost 400 pounds. Ran a 4.21 shuttle. Has a vertical jump of over 35 inches. Broad jumped almost 10 feet. He could have a big combine. A big combine. And when you talk about interior linebacker options, he's a beast. Now, another reason I got on here is Trevin Wallace. And the reason why I got on here, this guy's a former track star. He hit 22 miles per hour on a GPS at Kentucky. He's a 38.5-inch vertical. He won the state weightlifting title with a 335-pound power clean. Trevin Wallace might really rise and become a lot of people's favorite at linebacker. Cornerback, which is, again, another need. I got Quinion Mitchell, who rose prominently at the Senior Bowl out of Toledo. Cooper DeJean, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Cam Hart, and Nate Wiggins. Now, Mitchell, he's expected to continue to build off of an absolutely fantastic Senior Bowl, right? 6 foot, pushing about 200 pounds, had a top speed of about 23.58 miles per hour. He ran in the 4.3s twice in running 40s for NFL scouts last spring. He's going to run in the 4.3s. He's going to put up crazy numbers. He's going to test real well. Nate Higgins out of Clemson, I expect him to test really well. I mean, he clocked in at 22.6 miles per hour. And he's one of the guys who gave Drake May a lot of problems. Picked him off a few times. Let him know what the deal was. Cam Hart out of Notre Dame. People are, he's a day 2-ish, maybe borderline day 3 pick. But, I mean, he might become a solid day 2 after he tests 6'2", about 205, hit 23.01 miles per hour on the GPS, vert jumps over 38 inches, had a broad jump of over 11 feet. So, yeah, I think you're going to have some corners test freakishly. And then at safeties, I got Cameron Kitchens, Tyler Nubin, Jaden Hicks, Kalen Bullock, and Bo Braid. A lot of those guys, they're on this list because they can play, box, right? They can, and then you got a guy like Cameron Kitchens or Tyler Nubin would be perfect to pair with Javon Holland. But those are the safeties I'll be keeping my eyes on as we head into the combine. Man, I just gave y'all 50 names that make sense, basically, with our first 2 picks because we don't have a third or fourth. So I just gave you 50 names that make sense with those first 2 picks to keep an eye on at the combine. They make sense in some way, shape, or form. So, man, show some love. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new. That is some in-depth detail for all of y'all to enjoy. And I hope you did. Pretty extensive list. So, and the word on the street right now is, that David Fronis put out an article, and one of the teams that has been, has talked to guard Christian Mahogany out of, Boston College, the Dolphins. You know what I mean? So if you're looking for an early name early on, Christian Mahogany, his name, because of David Fronis' latest article, is being tied a little bit to the Miami Dolphins. So there you go. Guys, I am going to be back tomorrow with Richmond, with Richmond and with Ball Game for the finish line. And then on Thursday, we will have Finju Deep with myself and Neil Driscoll. And then Friday, I will be dropping my top 30 free agent targets for the Miami Dolphins. So a lot of content coming your way. And then we're going to get into the first big board and free agency soon after. So smash the like button, subscribe if you're new. And as always, fins up all day, every day until Margaret